Welcome everyone to the Rush to Fail podcast. Today I have Dan Law with me, aka Captain America. We got a running joke for a while. I mean, you're not going to find a better looking guy. I'm sorry, on our show. So we're starting this off right. We're excited to have Dan on. Dan, if you don't mind, just take a little bit of time to tell us about yourself.
Okay. I get first and foremost, father and husband, and I'm a business owner. Outside of that, and like going back is however I want. Totally
up to you.
All right. Well, so yeah, I guess just in context, I graduated from ASU, 2005, WP Carey School of Business, and I was all stoked to enter the workforce and make my millions. And so I got a very corporate job with a home builder. I was on the lending side. I was a loan originator for K. Hovnanian American Mortgage.
Did not know that.
Oh yeah. And so I did that for 3 years. I put up with corporate America for 3 years. The money was great. It was the height of the real estate market, but corporate was it's just not my thing at all. And so one day I just went in, turned in my BlackBerry. One of the greatest days of my life. I had no plan. I had nothing. My wife was pregnant. And
but you're more similar than I realized.
But like I couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't want to be the person that I was when my son was born. And so I'm like, I'll go bankrupt. I'll lose my house. I don't care what happens. I'm getting out of here. So I turned in my BlackBerry. They escorted me out of the building. And from there, I'm like, all right, well, what do I do? And I started a floor and window cleaning business, which is kind of my closest fallback. Did that, provided some sustainability for me. Wasn't the business of my dreams. But I was
window cleaning wasn't the business of your dreams?
Well, I mean, I think I've always been fascinated by automation. Like I wanted something that was automated, and I tried creating that even with that business, where I wanted like customers on automatic, where it'd be like a 6-month package, or and it was, I was catering to a higher end clientele. So we were definitely premium service, higher end, gated communities, and it was a space that was very, very well. I mean, floor cleaning in general, carpet cleaning especially, is very crowded space. And when you can go out and get like 5 rooms cleaned for $99, and I'm like premium priced, and it was just very crowded. Carpet was losing market share. And it just didn't work. And so my dreams of automation and hiring employees and having trucks, and it just kind of fizzled. But that's when I decided to start this property services company. It was something I had a little bit of experience in high school. And this would lend a lot closer to the automation that I wanted, because it's like you get contracts, we provide great service, and as long as we're servicing, we're showing up when we're supposed to. It's like those are going to auto renew. So that's what I really wanted. So created that in 2013, and it's been kind of a roller coaster ever since. But we're going to get into I guess some of the lessons that I learned along the way. But yeah, it's I started Good Neighbor Porter Services in 2013. It has since become Good Neighbor Property Services. So it's kind of a concierge, full scale property services company. These master plan communities that have their common areas and their pools and restrooms and fitness centers. And all these areas need to be cleaned and maintained by somebody. It's like, who does that? I'm like, oh.
That's interesting. Yeah, you saw the need for it. So love the intro. I actually want to skip back to we glossed over when you decided to leave your job, and I'm just curious. What was your wife's reaction? Was she supportive, or was she like, "What in the world are you doing? We got a baby on the way." I'm curious to see what the reaction was there,
dude. Okay, so my wife's father worked for SRP for like 50 years.
Oh, wow.
So very structured, very stable, like steady paycheck, steady income, benefits,
Same
all that stuff.
job.
So,
wow.
So that was how she kind of grew up. But she actually was really supportive because she saw how miserable I was. So she's like, you could do anything. Like, I don't need this miserable husband.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she was supportive. She was cool with it. But it was
That's awesome.
It was sketchy. I mean, it was one of those decisions where looking back, you're like, I don't even know how that happened, how I did that, how I came to that conclusion. Like where you almost forget the nuance involved in it.
Sure.
Where it must have been pretty bad. Because literally, I had no plan. I had nothing. I had no backup. I didn't have. Like I had done interviews for other companies. There was I went to KTAR. I had an inn at KTAR.
There you go. I think I know who that inn is. Okay.
And I was going to try to do their radio ad sales, and I thought I killed my interview. I'd already proactively gone out and I did like these needs analysis on 4 business owners, and I just went in there. I thought I was I thought I did really well, and I thought I was a shoo-in. And the guy said that I lacked experience, and I'm like,
how dare he?
How dare he? I was like, well, yeah. How do I get experience?
I've been a loan originator,
like,
all right.
Yeah.
But
that was it. I'm like, all right, fine. Yeah. I'm not doing this. I'm not working for anybody else. So,
pave your own way.
So I didn't even. Yeah, I didn't have a plan, and I had cleaned carpet in high school. We had like a floor buffer maintainer, and it was definitely not to the scale that I did it when I did it for real. Yeah. So it was just kind of like, well, I did that. I guess I could do it again for real.
Can make a few bucks, pay the mortgage. Yeah, just cleaning. So, and it's so funny that as you say all this, it's taking me back. And I didn't realize that part of your story, actually. We've known each other for a long time, but I had a very similar, experience to you where I was working for Edward Jones, working for the man, working for, the corporate America gig. And, it was fine. And I was hitting my numbers all the time, but man, I did not enjoy it. Thank you for the promo on the Liquid Death, by the way.
Did I show it?
We have to be very clear. This is not an energy drink. Dan is very conscious of his health.
Thank you.
And he would never, ever consume a Monster. So Liquid Death, which we still are not sure if it is just water, but Will over there recording is happily pounding his Monster as we speak. So love it. But yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I was in a very similar situation, and we had bought our home, and thankfully we just bought our home because I used that W-2 to get the home, and then sure enough, although I will say there was a little bit of variance there because unlike you where you went in voluntarily, I was actually escorted out of my office, believe it or not, by some Men in Black guys. So. Some big dudes from corporate came in because they realized that I had just got my license to sell real estate, and I assumed I was okay to do that as long as I didn't hang with a broker. And so apparently they just do these random audits, which I probably should have read the fine print somewhere. I'm sure it was in there. I'm sure I signed something. And sure enough, they asked me if I had done that. And of course I said yes. And so they were like, all right, well, I think we're done here and you can leave. So that was that. And they took all those clients that I got for them, and that was it. So, but same thing. It was like, okay, now we got to figure out what's going on. And so I think that's why we're kind of cut from the same cloth, which is why I think I like you so much. But, man, that's crazy. So one of the things that we like to get into, with this show is really just talking about, I mean, that's obviously one great example of, experience that you had where some would consider that maybe a failure, right? When in reality, it was just like, that's a stepping stone to my next, thing, like the next opportunity. And so if you don't mind, maybe just share, one or two stories in your life that have definitely been impactful to you, where maybe at first glance it was like, man, this is the worst time of my life and this is a horrible experience and I want to get out of it, but it ended up being great. So Well,
so I mean, going back, even when you ask me, and I know how you're like the real estate guru, and I didn't know the name of the podcast or anything, and so I'm like, I get the text, I'm like, well, how do you see me contributing here? I'm a novice with real estate, but you said, as soon as you said failure, I'm like, boom, that's my.
So no, Dan, it's about failure. That's why I'm texting you right now.
that's how I can contribute. That's where I'm at. Okay,
you're the
sweet.
Expert.
Yeah, I would say that like I haven't started a business and dropped like $400K and lost it in that way, like a failure in that way. I would say that a lot of my failures are mindset failures and failures in my thinking and flawed thinking, and either with myself in relation to others or just myself in general. But one of the I'd say the most painful failure, and this took years to really learn, and I finally learned it in 2021. And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship is because there's really nothing that can test you the way that entrepreneurship does.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, certainly there are other aspects. There's fatherhood will test you.
Yep.
In a lot of, like, fatherhood definitely is testing, and it'll try your patience and everything else. But I think as far as becoming who I've become, I can't think of a better staging ground than entrepreneurship, because it's like at every turn you're faced with this decision, like, am I going to change, or am I going to like just try to like bullhead my way through and just keep pounding the wall, or like is this going to open up for me? And this was one of those moments. It was just like a crucible that I had fought for years and years. So like when I started Good Neighbor, like we were just like on the ground, and I had no I wanted to do it without any financing, without any loans, without any help. So really, it was just trying to fund that operating account for years. That was tough, man. And then as we're trying to get accounts, we're trying to hire people on, and service and all that good stuff. But as I grew a team of individuals around me, I thought that I needed to be the cool boss, that I needed to be the cool owner that connected with everybody, that I created this welcoming environment where everyone felt appreciated, and I didn't feel like I could do that and hold people accountable at the same time. That's like, so in a nutshell, that's the failure. Because I thought that in order for me to create that environment, that it couldn't be me, that it had to be someone else. So I was constantly trying to find somebody to be like my bad cop. You know, I wanted to be good cop. I wanted to find somebody to be my bad cop. Like first it was like my dad he's been a partner in the business. I wanted him to be bad cop. I'm like, that didn't work. And
interesting. Okay.
So then I would just find, like, hoping that he would have those accountability conversations with people and saying, like, well,
would you always choose to be the good cop? You always just had to find someone to fill that role.
I want to be the good cop.
Yeah, you want to be a nice guy.
I didn't want to have those difficult conversations and say, well, let's take a look at your performance and take a look at the KPIs. How's it going? You know, like I just didn't want that, and I felt like, I had fired plenty of people, but it's just there was an attitude shift and a mindset at my crucible that it's been totally different since then. But it's like I just thought that those things could not coexist, sure. and I couldn't be more wrong. Like I could not be more wrong. So after a series of really, really bad hires, and this is like me just passive aggressively going through the motions and blaming people and hating that I'm keeping them on while I am, and doing their work at the same time. Like like Brad. I felt like Brad from Big Lebowski, like, you know, like all the time. It's like, I'd be like, oh, you didn't get that done? Okay. Yeah. And
that's wonderful. I'll just work Saturday, Sunday.
I was like constantly giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, okay, maybe I haven't provided the training, or maybe I haven't done this, and that must be my fault. Like, and I'm really thinking that I'm not blaming them, you know, by doing this, but I totally am. I totally am. It's all lip service. So, yeah, in 2021, after about 2 years of the worst hire, and he was so blatantly two-faced and dishonest and disloyal and all these things, but
how do you really feel about him though?
Like he was just a shyster, man, and I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, and I let him go, and I realized that everyone underneath him carried the same. They were hired by him, and they carried kind of just the same mentality, and so he
brought in that type of culture, and he was the one hiring people at that point, not you, and everyone underneath him. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's part of the failures. I had wanted somebody to kind of run the business. So I brought him in as a CEO, and I said, all right, man, I'm going to give you ownership in the business, and it's going to be yours. I want you to be my operating partner while I kind of pursue other things that I'm passionate about. And so I like let him. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, you've got it. Yeah. Like you can talk the talk. You certainly sound like you know what you're talking about.
Here's the keys.
And yeah, here's the keys, and I'll let you do your thing. Yeah. And I kept coming back to the metrics. I'm like, this is not going well. But I mean, part of it was during COVID, so we had lost 30% of our recurring revenue in a matter of 6 months. Like after I handed the keys, like officially. Wow. We lost 30% of our recurring revenue, which took me years to build that. So it was pretty devastating, and I sort of started to see the writing on the wall. Yeah. But I kept making excuses for the guy because I'm like, well, yeah, people are financially pinched, and potentially this is all just aftermath of some of the COVID and people tightening their belts. And so I kind of kept giving him that. But anyway, June of 2021, I'd had enough, and I'm like, all right, this is unsustainable. Like this guy's destroying things. I've got to get involved. So I let him go, and consequently had to let everybody underneath him go. So I mean, this was me. It was me answering phones, sending emails.
And how many employees did you have
at the time?
At that time, you let everyone go?
I think it would have been 4. Wow. 4 like admin personnel. Yeah. Okay. 3 or 4. I think one was part-time. So like that was 3 or 4 positions of work that needed to get done. That was now being done by one person. So like these were 15-hour days, 7 days a week for a solid year. Wow. A solid year. So that was painful. And like I had reached the point after letting him go that that's where I realized either I change or I fold up shop. Yeah. Because what I've done isn't working. Like this is far too painful. Like I sacrificed like 2 years of my life in the aftermath of this, you know. Wow. But so then I'm back to myself. I'm like Jerry Maguire, like reaching out to my clients individually, you know, like apologizing for dishonesty that might have, like I'm in tears talking to my team about what had happened and how I had let this happen. And it was no longer like this self-righteous lip service, you know, like I owned it. And I think that's the biggest difference is that I fully owned it. Like it was no longer his fault. It was no longer their fault. Like this is my fault. Yep. Like I hired the guy. I let him stay on. I didn't do anything about it. Like of course, what he did throughout the course, he didn't do what he was supposed to and all those things. But ultimately, like that's on me.
Yeah.
You know? And so when I fully owned that, that's when everything changed, because then it's like it allowed for this culture of accountability and real integrity.
Yeah.
When I'm willing to be fully accountable to my team, and we have this reciprocal kind of agreement.
Yeah.
You know, so then after that, it just totally changed. I'm like, all right, I'm done screwing around. I'm gonna hire people that I really want to be around. It's no longer going to be like wishing on a prayer that that it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Like proven, tried methods and surefire ways of following up on past history and credit and character references. And so, yeah, just through that, I finally started, I'd get one, and one would work out, and I would train personally and let them go. And then like that was the most time consuming part, is running the business while I'm training somebody, 2 or 3 people simultaneously, and trying to hire somebody else. And then one hire doesn't work out and I let them go. But yeah, so like that lesson right there, if I had learned that, if I knew this stuff, if that was part of me back in 2013, I mean, I wonder where I would be, you know?
Yeah. And you know, I also think too, with that being said, I wonder if it's just a requirement. Like, I wonder if it's just part of the type of people that we are, because everything you're saying obviously resonates with me. And I do believe that employees is the most, I mean, just people are the most difficult part of business, right?
Yeah.
Just being able to not only keep them motivated, but also, you know, have the KPIs to track and what metrics they should, you know, be hitting, and then holding them accountable, and then, you know, following up on that, and then setting up a PIP plan if they don't. I mean, all of those things, they take, you have to have a backbone. And I feel like the minute that they feel like, hey, you know, there's some flexibility and he's okay with me not hitting my numbers, and I kind of slack off, you know, then it's kind of hard to steer that ship back. And so I just wonder if it took, you know, you going through at the most extreme level, which it sounds like, you know, and I've also noticed that too. I think COOs are the most difficult position to hire, you know, within an organization. They will make or break a company, I feel like. And so
totally.
I've seen it work really well, and I've also seen the opposite. And so for you, obviously, that was the catalyst. It sounds like that was what it took for you to be like, okay, it's broken. I'm broken. I got to figure this out. Let's start over. Let's do this right. And so, man, that's really impressive. With your employees now, if you're giving advice to people that are getting into business and they want to start any business really that requires human capital, which is, you know, pretty much any business.
Any business.
What are some things now that you've learned that you implement, let's say, starting off on the hiring process? You mentioned a couple things that you do.
Yeah.
But what do you do now when you're looking for someone to fill a role? What are you doing different now than what you did before?
Oh man, great question. Yeah, and that's, I think, because this was such a just a recurring thread for me for so long, I think that question will probably be, that will be the one thing that I work primarily with business owners. Yeah. Because I've experienced it, I've failed so miserably at it, and I've found a formula that works. I mean, it's nothing earth-shaking, groundbreaking, but it doesn't matter the avenue that you find people. I've gone to Indeed and I've found phenomenal people. I've found duds at Indeed. I've gone placement agencies and I found phenomenal people there, and I've gotten duds there. So it's like the avenue doesn't necessarily matter. But I mean the formula that you take going into it, that's ultimately, it's kind of that's still kind of not necessarily a crapshoot, but it is a risk. You know, you can do everything that you possibly can, but I think a lot of the part of my problem was that I'd never really had a solid somebody that I even could use as a benchmark.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like, And the fact that I was in, corporate America, and I felt like I was just a kid. I was 25 at the time, and I was there for just 3 years. And I did some of the performance reviews, but I was still mostly on my own. And so I just didn't have a ton of exposure. So even when I went out on my own, and then on my own, I was like, floor cleaning was really on my own. Like I had a couple of employees that came on as technicians, but on the higher level kind of executive positions or management positions, I just didn't have a ton of experiences. And I didn't have a good benchmark of what a good, solid employee would be. I mean, certainly conceptually, I could think of that, but I think the human side, I just kept thinking, I'm like, well, yeah, I think that must be my fault. I must not have.
Yeah.
I must not be providing good enough training, good enough. I must not have just the structure for this person to be successful here. And so I would kind of passive aggressively take that on.
Sure.
But I mean, now it's interviewing. Everyone's going to put their best foot forward. Of course, that's what we all do. Mm-hmm. So that can be deceiving. But I think having longer interviews for me, that's been successful.
Have you noticed also that when you do bring on people, are you is it the mantra of slow to hire, quick to fire? Like, are you in that mode of like absolutely. Would you say within the first couple weeks or month or 2 months, like at what point are you like, this is going to work and I feel really good about it? Or are you like, something's going on? Have you found? Absolutely.
But I mean, I think now the culture that we've created, like we're all on the same page. So now it would be blatantly obvious. It'd be like,
I love
which one of these is not like the others? Yeah, it would be so easy to point out.
They just stick out
because we all share a common vision. We're all moving in the same direction. It would be night and day different now versus before. I mean, even as soon as even just last year, I'd hired a guy from a temp agency, and then this was, he was supposed to run my maintenance division, and he was not a good fit at all. And I knew that I had that 50%, or I had that refund, like a 30-day refund guarantee, and that date was coming, and I'm like, man, this does not seem to be going the way that I would think it should go.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first experiments. And like I felt so frantic and chaotic that even with this guy, I didn't let him go, and I should have. And I kept him on for 6 months. So I mean, like slow to hire, quick to fire. Like that was another huge failure that cost. So that was one of the last ones. But since him, we've made some really great hiring decisions and added some phenomenal people, like just really high quality people.
Man, that's so awesome. And one of the things that I've always admired about you, Dan, is number one, you are relentlessly in pursuit of perfection. Where you're, whether it's mind, body, you love challenges. We didn't talk about this, but the fact that you were a stand-up comedian, or you got into the comedy scene for a little bit, or improv, I guess is the better word for it. But the fact that you were willing to put yourself out there, which to me is the most terrifying thing I can think of. But you were willing to be like, no, I'm gonna face it, and I'm gonna try and figure this out. And I love that you do things like that. Man. Now you're, for the audience, just so that you guys know, it sounds like you're writing a book.
Yeah.
Which I want to learn a little bit more about, and starting a consulting business, is that, or a coaching business? Is that what I understand? So you mind telling us about
absolutely,
that?
Man. So, and that's kind of been my vision for years. So I mean, when talking about failure,
to write a book.
Yeah. I've wanted to write a book for a long time, but I lacked the confidence, and I thought that, and I think another failure mindset would be that I have to achieve success before I can do X, Y, or Z.
Yep. I think that happens to a lot of us. Yeah, the imposter syndrome, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That I had to be successful before I could talk to anybody else about it.
Once you hit that, then I'll do it. Once I get rich, then I'll do it.
But the bar always gets raised.
Yeah.
There's always, it's like, well, nah, once I get to this level, this income level and gauging success, it's all nonsense. But but like I've just wanted to get to a level where I'm mentally in a place where I can write, I guess. And so it's taken me some time. I started writing in 2021, and I got through several chapters, and then just all hell broke loose. And I haven't been able to revisit it until about a month and a half ago. And so I've written 2 more chapters, which I'm stoked about. Like I'm plugging away. I've had the whole thing mapped out.
And what's it about?
In a word, I guess freedom, but that sounds really, really cliche. It's about the quantitative power of choice and the fundamental and inseparable connection that that freedom and empowerment have with ultimate achievement and attracting abundance. So it's like it goes through these failed mindsets that we all have.
Yeah.
It's about the embrace of personal liberation, kind of in every sense of the word.
Very cool.
Whether it's like liberation from the grasp of the ego, or liberation from social, financial constraints, self-doubts, limitations, negative thought patterns, addiction, like all these things that we're all sort of constrained by. Yeah. But it chronicles that pure creation, and I love talking about creation, but pure creation is not possible without freedom. Without freedom. Like, because, I mean, like, we are...
Dan is the face of the Libertarian Party, actually, by the way. We won't get into that. That will be several hours.
But yeah, like,
unfiltered.
we were created in the image of our Creator, and we're here to create.
Yeah.
You know, we're here to build things and create things. And that's not possible in any way without freedom. Yeah. And so freedom really speaks to me. So that's what the book's about. I don't know. I've thrown a bunch of titles around. I don't know what the title is going to be.
Just put Braveheart on the cover. Freedom.
William Wallace. William Wallace killed 50 men.
Love it. That's so cool. So you have the book coming out, and I imagine that's going to correlate with the coaching that you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, with that.
So either I love talking about personal development, whether it's to an individual, whether it's to a group, whether it would be to a business, like whatever those principles, those principles help someone become, like I'm all in. I love that. So yeah, that was my pursuit of other things that I'm passionate about. That's what really gets me. That's what I love.
That's so cool. Because Dan, so now would you say that your business is at that point where it is pretty much fully automated, and we're knocking on all the wood, right? Like, don't say that. I get it. In business, it's never done, right? There's always more to do. Yeah. But are you in a place where you feel pretty good about where you're at?
Yeah, man. I mean, today. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, like
it's fragile.
I have a phenomenal team. So they're a really good team, and that's another lesson. It's just I've learned a ton about teamwork.
Yeah.
Where actually having a solid team, like, it just makes all the difference. I've tried to go it alone for a really long time, and again, passive aggressively blame everybody, but do the work myself. You know, and it's just night and day different. Now.
I think that all of us could use that coaching in our lives. I mean, especially me, because I've absolutely been in the same boat, and could not agree more that, I mean, the only time I feel successful is when it's the team that is all of a sudden working together, and it's cool to see every part working. It's just like a car where you need every part to do its thing. If one of those is off, the whole thing doesn't work, and it just falls apart. And so I love that that's like your pursuit. And I could probably use some of that coaching whenever it does come out. I'll be your first client, I think, for that. But man, this has been so fun. I really appreciate you coming on. do you have any, I guess, last bits of wisdom, takeaways, I guess, related to the topic, really of mindset, culture, freedom, that you've learned over the, past 10 years or so?
We are our own worst enemies, and the mind is a powerful tool, and it can be incredibly deceiving. And like we were talking about, there are so many times when I have, when I could pay kind of self-righteous lip service, and I could say that oh yeah, you have to take responsibility, but internally I'm not, at all, in any way, shape, or form. Internally, I'm blaming everybody, but my payoff is that I'm seen as like, go it alone, and I'm doing it all myself, but there's no cohesiveness in that,
Yeah.
So I mean, I think if I've learned anything, it's truly this victim mindset that I've been aware of for so long, and that's why I say that we are our own worst enemy, because it's so easy to deceive ourselves about who we even think we are, and that's so the book delves a lot into the mind and the ego and all that stuff, and I love all that stuff. But I mean, I think being very open and honest with yourself, and sometimes it takes that crucible that I had to fully realize that. Because again, like I would have told you at that time that I take full responsibility for my choices and actions, but I totally didn't.
Yeah.
It was such a subtle shift that happened that like I can't even describe. Like, it was from one day to the next. It just subtle shift where I'm like, nah, man, like this is my fault. Yeah, it's totally my fault. And from there, everything's kind of changed. But
so cool.
Yeah, just kind of like another thing is just it's a movement of fear to love. So it's us always constantly fearing, making decisions out of fear, making hiring decisions out of fear, instead of somebody that we know is going to be the right fit. We're like, oh, I got to get somebody in there, and that it never goes well. Yep. Yeah, it never goes well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that's.
Love it. No, and it definitely speaks, I think, to anyone that has run a business owners, had to hire people. We've all gone through it. And so I think that everyone out there that's listening is definitely nodding their head in agreement with everything you're saying. So, so Dan, how can people find you? I imagine the book's not going to be ready for how long? Like what's your goal?
Man, it better be published this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm excited to look for that. And then the is it coaching, consulting? What are you calling it? What's the name of the?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a coaching practice. It's integral coaching. Okay. Is my domain. So I'm not real active on social media. I have an old Facebook page that I don't check. But I mean, I'm probably gonna have to do something.
LinkedIn. There you go.
LinkedIn.
It's like,
I think I have a LinkedIn. Good Neighbor has a LinkedIn account. So it's kind of tough to find me online, but
yeah.
I imagine I'll be getting a little more active in the near future. But yeah, it'd be a coaching practice, and
love it.
Really, the whole goal would be to just go out and speak to anybody who will listen, whether it's a group, it's an individual. That's really my metric of success. I don't really even care. I don't have a dollar amount. I don't really care, as long as I'm doing what I feel empowers me, what lights me up,
See, and I love that. I think that as a human race, we actually get a bigger dopamine hit when we're giving back and serving and helping other people, like the next generation coming up and being like, look, I can help you if you just listen. And I think it's fulfilling, right? And that's really a big reason why I decided to do this podcast, and I wanted to do it for years and years, but I think it's so important to have people from all walks of life and different circumstances to come on and share their experiences, because we can all learn from it. We've all made so many mistakes. We make them daily. But I love that you're now focused on, okay, like what can I do, to put together all the lessons that I have learned and then go out there and help other people, you know, that might be struggling or going through something similar. So love that. This is fun.
Same to you. Yeah, no, same to you. Like this is inspiring. It's awesome. Like,
well, good, man. I'm so glad to have, and it's honestly, it's like I have an excuse now or a reason, because I am by my very nature like a very introverted person, right? So like if it's up to me, I will go. Yes, like you and I can just go, you know, sit in the closet and we can just work for days and not eat and not even realize it, you know. And then our wives are knocking on the door like, "What are you doing?" So, you know, this is a great excuse for me to get out there and invite my friends and people that I respect to learn from them, you know, in a pretty cool setting. And so, anyways, great to have you on.
Introverts unite.
That's right.